The air was so cold that every breath he exhaled froze and hung in the air. The forest was completely silent under the snow, with only the sound of his footsteps crunching through the snow and the distant cry of an eagle. Arif feared nothing, for he had spent many years in this harsh, foreboding forest, feeling more at home there than anywhere else. This time, Arif's purpose was different. He had heard rumors of several hunters disappearing over the past few weeks, and this intrigued him. According to the stories, a terrifying bear lived in the darkest corners of the forest, killing anyone who came near its cubs. Arif, skeptical of these legendary tales, decided to find and kill the mythical bear. But on this cold night, the fear that lingered in the forest seemed real. The night was frigid, and the snow fell relentlessly, but Arif's sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. Suddenly, he saw movement in the snow. An eagle, wings spread wide, circled overhead, but what caught his attention was something else. Far off, he spotted a massive set of tracks, deep, large prints, as if something enormous had been dragged through the snow. Arif followed the tracks, and eventually he came to an open clearing. There, in the snow, he saw the giant bear and its cubs. The bear fixed its gaze on Arif. The bear's eyes held no fear, only the desire to protect. It was the most terrifying creature in the forest, and it would not hesitate to kill anyone who threatened its cubs. Arif's hand hovered over his rifle, but as the bear stared back at him, he felt a shift. In that moment, he realized that the forest was not just a place of hunting, but a place of ancient laws that demanded protection for the vulnerable. The hunter raised his rifle and aimed, but for a brief moment he hesitated. The bear, with its massive body and fierce protection of its cubs, reminded Arif of the deep, unspoken laws of the forest. Nothing stands in the way of a mother protecting her young. With a heavy heart, Arif lowered his rifle and took a step back. In that moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The hunter made a decision. He would never return to this forest again. That cold winter night, deep in the heart of the forest, the bear and its cubs remained safe. Arif had learned the forest's secret. Sometimes standing against fear only brings greater danger. It was a dark and cold winter night. Snow fell relentlessly, covering the land in a thick white blanket. The wind howled through the plains, sending chills down anyone's spine. On this harsh winter night, the most feared cowboy of the Wild West, Raven Blackwood, rode on horseback. His name was synonymous with terror. He was a ruthless gunslinger, known for his cold-blooded nature and piercing gaze. People called him the Nightmare of Winter, because wherever he went, blood-stained snow followed. Raven was riding across the snowy plains, heading toward an old, abandoned village. Once a lively place, the village was now nothing more than ruins, with creaking wooden doors swinging in the icy wind. Stories said a horrific battle had taken place here years ago, and since that day, no one dared to live in the cursed village. But Raven wasn't there by accident. He had come to challenge someone, his old rival, Iron-Jawed Jackson. Jackson was the opposite of Raven. He was a skilled fighter, but had compassion in his heart. 2 years earlier, their paths had crossed, but their battle had ended unfinished. Now, fate had brought the two enemies together in this snow-covered, desolate village. When Raven reached the center of the village, he spotted a silhouette in the distance. It was Jackson, sitting tall on his horse amidst the snowy night. The two locked eyes, and the air around them grew unnaturally still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the outcome of this duel. "You've come again, Raven," Jackson said, his voice steady. "But this time, you've brought more than just death with you, haven't you?" Raven smirked. But it wasn't the smile of a man. It was something more sinister, as if the very shadows in the snow had come to life. "You know the curse I carry, Jackson," he said. "Only one of us will leave this snowy graveyard alive. But my victory belongs to the shadows that follow me. The duel began. The two cowboys circled each other on horseback, firing shots into the icy air. The silence of the night was shattered by the sound of gunfire and the stomping of hooves on snow. Each bullet fired seemed to disturb the dark presence around Raven. Jackson began to realize that Raven was no longer human. He was something else, a shadow resurrected from a forgotten legend. Suddenly, the snowstorm intensified. Raven halted his horse and rode closer to Jackson. "This winter night will be your last," Raven said, raising his gun. But Jackson wasn't afraid. He looked into Raven's cold, lifeless eyes and replied, "Tonight, it's not just me. You'll become a part of this cursed snow as well." Jackson fired his last bullet. The shot hit Raven square in the chest, but Raven didn't fall. Instead, a dark mist began to surround him, his human form fading away. He was becoming nothing but a shadow. Jackson was stunned, but knew this creature could never fully be destroyed. The snowstorm carried Raven's shadow deep into the forest. When morning came, the village lay silent once again under a blanket of snow. But Jackson was nowhere to be found. Legend says that after that night, Raven's shadow continued to roam the cursed village. Whenever it snowed, eerie whispers echoed through the abandoned ruins. The village was named the Bloody Shadow of Winter, and no one dared to set foot there again.